Hi, this is Joe again with another movie review. For the sake of this video, we're going to be discussing the 2019 film Avengers Endgame. It's going to go with Warren Downey Jr., Scarlett Johansson, Mark Ruffalo. I also stars Josh Brolin as the villain, Thanos. It also has Benedict Cumberbatch as Doctor Strange. You have Chris Hemsworth as Thor. So it's like almost like an all-star roster from the Marvel comic book universe. Of course, this is the fourth and final film of the Avengers universe, and you could tell the way this movie ended. You could tell it's going to be the last Avengers movie, which people hope there will be more Avengers movies because of the huge success of this one. Of course, this one takes place right after the events of the previous film, which was Avengers Infinity War, where the villain Thanos captured all the recap of the Infinity War film, where the villain Thanos captured all these what they call Infinity Stones. One controls time, controls reality, another one controls the mind, controls all these different things, and he just snaps his fingers, and about half of the not only Earth's population, but the population of the entire galaxy was killed by Thanos, because for snapping his fingers, usually all I think 6 of the Infinity Stones. And so, of course, now what happens is you're now in a different reality now. And those who remember what happened, of course, you had Iron Man, you had, in terms of the Avengers who were still alive, including Black Widow, you had the Archer. I forgot the guy's name. Who wasn't Black Widow? It was I forgot the guy's name. I know it's not Black Arrow. I mean, it's DC. But there was even another Archer in this series. You had the Hulk, and now it's the Smart Hulk. Because apparently Bruce Banner merged with the Hulk. Well, they weren't the same person. But now the Hulk is just as intelligent as Bruce Banner was, and he could speak fluently. You had him, you had Black Widow, you had Iron Man was still alive. And those characters, also Captain America was still alive as well. So you had these characters to form to get regroup and go after Thanos. And so they know that this is not the real reality, and they're trying to bring back, the other half of the population that just got wiped out, because Thanos killed trillions of people. And not just millions, not just billions, but trillions of people he killed. So they found out, or they figured out, that if they go back in time, just before Thanos showed up and captured the stones, the Infinity Stones themselves, and use them, that would stop what Thanos was doing and possibly bring back all the people that he killed. So Iron Man, when Tony Stark comes up with the idea, oh, that's a good idea. Let's see if we could do it, and comes up with a time portal. So go back in time, get rid of the stones, and use them. And it does take a real long time for this to happen. And they explain what happened to the Avengers, because about 5 years takes place from what happened in the beginning of this movie. Like I said, it takes place right where the last movie left off. So by the time they did like a little bit of a recap, and then they said, okay, and it took about 5 years to figure this thing out, and come up with a game plan to bring everybody back. So they do happen to do that. They brought back Black Panther, which of course, unfortunately, I think it was like really the last movie that, or actually the last movie that Chadwick Boseman starred in, because he was dying of cancer. So they brought him back one last time. They had all the other Avengers, but other Marvel superheroes. They brought back Spider-Man as well, and Tony Stark made him a member of the Avengers, and brought all these characters back, and they go back and place in time during the Avengers universe, during the Avengers movie series. They went to certain parts of the timeline to capture these stones, in which they had. And well, I should mention the funniest part of the movie is that they brought back Thor with Chris Hemsworth, and now he has like a beer belly, beer gut, drinking booze all day and watching cable television. Because Asgard got destroyed in one of the Thor movies. I think it was the third one, which they reviewed. Ragnarok, where Asgard got destroyed. So now Thor is trying to set up a new Asgard, and now he's like a drunk, he's a slacker now, and they all convinced him. Plus all the other Avengers was still having to be alive, which they tracked down, was Tony Stark tracked down, I should say. And they all convinced him to go do the time traveling thing. So they built this whole time travel portal, and they went back to different times, like I just mentioned, different times in the Avengers movie series, and they went back to certain points of time, and they got back the stones, and they were able to convince everybody to get the stones. And there's some real funny stuff that does happen, because they go back to certain points of the Avengers time frame to get these stones, and they do that, and they get the stones back. And meanwhile, I should mention, because I glossed over the plot, because this movie is so long, I skipped over it. Within the first 15 minutes, Thor does kill Thanos. Because what happens is, Thanos because he didn't want anybody to bring anyone back with the stones, so he destroyed the stones himself, and so Thor got so mad, literally cut his head off, literally. But since they went back in time to get to the stones, Thanos ends up finding out what the Avengers' plan was in terms of trying to stop Thanos before he does what he eventually does in the time frame. So what happens is, of course, not only the Avengers were successful enough to brought everybody back, but Thanos decided to go out all-out war against the Avengers. So they had this huge, gigantic fight scene that went even longer than the first. I thought the fight sequence in the end of the first Avengers movie went too long. This one went as long as that, because don't forget, this is a 3-hour movie, which I'm going to get into eventually in the end of this video. And this fight scene went way too long, and was really over the top. I'm not saying I don't like a good action scene or a good fight, because the whole movie built up to this fight scene. I mean, it's not like they didn't have action for a good chunk of this film, but the huge fight scene, or the big fight scene that you had in previous Avenger films and the Thor movies and so on, took place. And it felt like that's 45 minutes of this movie. You had this huge fight scene. You had Black Panther. You had routing his troops. You had Ant-Man in this movie. Well, you didn't see the Ant-Man movie, obviously, but he was in this movie. You had Spider-Man in this film. Fortunately, not Tobey Maguire Spider-Man, but the guy who's playing Spider-Man now. The two more recent Spider-Man films, I should say, was in this movie. You had that actor, you had Ant-Man, you had Thor, you had the Guardians of the Galaxy. They all came back, and these those who were killed off as they come back at the time that, currently. And even though they knew the 5 years passed, but they ended up coming back, and they had this huge fight scene against Thanos and his army, which you didn't see since the very first Avengers film. So you had all that fight going on, and eventually, of course, what happens is that Iron Man used the Infinity Stones against Thanos and killed him, and killed, all evil. That's right. That's what he used the stones for, to kill Thanos and his army. And of course, it was successful. Which I should mention, because there's so much stuff that happens in this movie, there's Black Widow, who's played with Scarlett Johansson. She gets killed off because I forgot the archer's name. I'm sorry, drawing a blank, but on the guy's name. But he had to sacrifice someone to get this particular stone, and he says, "Oh, I'll do it." And Black Widow says, "No, I do it. No, I do it. No, I'll do it." And then eventually, Black Widow was the one who sacrificed herself so that the archer would get the that particular stone. Because it was established early on in this film, when on the film before, when Thanos killed his android daughter. I'm not kidding. To get that stone, so you knew that bit was established already. So what happened was the Black Widow sacrificed herself so that the archer would get the stone. So you had that happen, and of course Iron Man fought so hard against Thanos because he used the stones against him. First it was the Hulk that used it because the stones were full of gamma rays. So since they're full of gamma rays, so it's not going to affect me as much as you guys. So the Hulk used it and brought everyone back, and they had this big battle scene at the end of the film. So, but then Iron Man took over, and then he used the stones to beat and destroy Thanos, and he was successful, and Iron Man was successful at it. And he ends up dying. Major spoiler for those of you who didn't see this movie, that Iron Man does die in the end of this movie. And they did have a whole big funeral for him and everything else at the end of the film. And that's what I mean when I said earlier that you knew this was going to be last Avengers movies, because two of them ended up dying in this movie. One about halfway through the film, and of course Robert Downey Jr. dies at the end of the film. And now everybody is happy that, or they're sad on one hand that Iron Man died, but they're glad they were able to save Earth, they were able to bring the people back who were killed in the first place by Thanos. They were glad they brought everyone back, everyone's okay, and that's pretty much how the Avengers Endgame ended. Of course, like I said earlier, this movie was the longest superhero movie ever. Now, before this movie came out, I think it was the movie that was the longest before Avengers Endgame came out was The Dark Knight Rises. The third and final film of Chris Nolan's Batman trilogy, which came out in I think 2012. And that movie was 2 hours and 45 minutes. I thought there's never going to be a superhero movie that's going on this long because it's too padded out. This movie was 3 hours and 1 minute long. So it's longer than any superhero movie ever. And not only that, but this movie made the most money of any film ever in movie history. And it passed Titanic, it passed, first it passed E.T., and passed Titanic, passed Avatar, passed the first Star Wars movie, made more money than any of these movies ever. And I'm like, okay. I said, I don't mind if I got the praise, because I thought it wasn't a bad film. At least it was a decent follow-up to the previous film. At least this one kind of has a plot to it. The other Avengers movies, I don't think it had that much of a plot and focus on, the action. At least the first half of the film, focus on the plot, focus on what they could do to fix things. So that part I like it, because I like my comic book movies to actually have a physical plot and not focus on action, and that's why I didn't give the great reviews of the previous Avengers movies, because I'd rather have a concentrate on the plot and then build up to a big action scene. This movie did what I like in a comic book film, and that's build up the plot, have a little action, spread out throughout the film. And then at the end of the film, you had the great big action scene, which, like I said earlier, went on way too long. But other than the one complaint, I thought, okay, at least they did the right thing in this Avengers in Avengers Endgame. But I thought that after the battle, it went about. Excuse me, on my phone. It went about a few. I think it went about 10 minutes too long after the battle scene. I thought they stretched out. The tying up all the loose ends to that part. I thought went too long. And at the film, because actually, like I said, it's a 3-hour movie, so they had padded everything out. If it was 10 minutes shorter, or 15 minutes shorter, about the same length as The Dark Knight Rises, I probably would have liked to give it a little bit of a higher rating than I would. But I thought that in the beginning it was padded out, and the end was padded out. But in the middle, when they figured out the game plan, and they executed it, and they had to fight the big battle scene, I thought that was good. But the beginning was too padded out, and the end was too padded out. But other than that, this movie was worth the praise that the movie received, in my opinion. So that's my review of the movie Avengers Endgame. Please click on the video, please rate it, please subscribe to my channel, and please forward this video on your Facebook pages. You can check out all my reviews and on my YouTube channel at rallyc.com, so WDY, and that's C.com. On the homepage, the Rally Reviewer, Christine Moore. Please check out all of his videos on his website. Thanks for watching, and catch you next time.